Well, that's really cool. So you guys are doing your own bees. You do know that this is pretty much how Ken Schramm started getting. It was like plant some fruit trees and plant some berries.
Yeah.
And
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, it gets.
We can only hope that maybe someday we'll be at that caliber.
He's been also doing it for a really long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm glad you guys went that route. I mean, at what point did you say, okay, we can make a business of this?
Well, I think we actually started thinking, looking at an existing winery a couple years ago, and thought, maybe this was a business venture we wanted to try to tackle, and explored buying an existing one, and thought, well, we could make mead there, still keep wines, but start introducing mead, and after several months of kind of negotiations back and forth, and experimental review in our head, it was just like, well, it just didn't pan out, and so then we said, well, we still want to do this. We were kind of committed now in our minds that this was something we wanted to move forward with, and so we started looking for other alternatives, and about a week after we kind of closed out of the previous idea or option, we put in an offer on a new house that could accommodate us commercially, and that was almost, not quite 2 years ago. So it all really happened very quickly, and we just decided, let's try it. Let's see what happens. There's a lot of work involved, though.
Yeah.
Hadn't fully planned on, but
yeah, it is a rather intense process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going through all the licensing and all those kinds of things. That's one of the good things about us is that's kind of my day job that I do is, government and for local government, but nonetheless still codes and laws and all that fun stuff. And so I'm a master at the forms, and luckily Wayne is good at making the product. So that makes a good combo.
Yeah, it does. Well, and having that skill at forms is really huge. I know another meadery where the owner was a grant writer.
Yeah.
And that's
I've done lots of grant writing, yeah.
Saves a ton of time because you kind of, have the governmentese down when you go in.
Exactly. Yeah. That definitely helped us, I think, in the long run. I have to ask him what to say.
Right, but you know how to translate
I can wordsmith it, yeah.
How to translate it into
I'm very fortunate, too, that I don't have to worry about that end of it, and I can just focus on making mead and taking care of the bees. It works out pretty well for both of us.
Yeah, that works out really good. So I take it then you are the mead smith, and then she's the other smith stuff?
Correct. Yep, I get to play around in the basement, come up with new recipes, and get everything fermenting correctly, and she takes care of the other part of the business, the invisible part.
Ah, okay. So
that's cool that you keep bees, because that right there is a leg up on, I think, most mead makers, Cause,
it is really nice. I get to, get a little closer to the final product and kind of get a appreciation for it. And it's been good for me to learn about bees as well as honey. And I can actually tell what the bees are bringing in certain times of the year and select that honey if I choose to. And it's been a pretty good experience so far.
That's neat. Yeah.
Now, are you guys just going with whatever the bees bring in, or are you moving the hives about in an effort to get varietal type?
Oh no, we're so small right now. I mean, we only have 6 hives, and so we're pretty much at a hobbyist level right now. And so from those 6 hives, we might get enough to do 2 70-gallon batches. And we're lucky to have some really good sources for our honey. Where our state apiarist in Des Moines has almost, I think, around 200 hives, and we buy a lot of our honey from him because he processes it in the way that we like. It's raw honey, and it's pretty much everything that we look for when we're looking for it. It's very similar to ours. We know kind of how it how to work with it. So we're pretty fortunate around here.
Nice. Well, 6 hives is, 6 more hives than I have, so...
What does he do? He basically spins it and that's it?
What's that?
Does he basically spin the honey and that's it, or does he do anything else to it?
Yeah, I mean, basic spinning and filtering out some of the wax, but it's not a fine filter and there's no heating involved, and so we'll get it pretty much fresh and try and ferment it as quickly as possible, and we end up with a really great product. In Iowa, the honey here is really light, and so for traditional meads and my favorite traditional dry meads, it's just about perfect for what we're looking for. And it does really well with all sorts of fruits and flavorings as well. So we're really, really happy to be where we're at this time.
That's really nice. I mean, you've got such a great base in that lighter honey to be able to springboard off that into so many different areas.
Yeah.
You know, it I think, backstops your creativity to a certain extent.
Exactly. And then that really works well for my mead making style. I like to play around with a lot of different kinds of fruits that most people really don't use, and so we play around with aronia and goji berry. We do several different teas. We've played around with rooibos and some ginseng, and that honey really does let it shine through because it is a really light, delicate honey. But yet with the dry mead, I mean, you can actually get a lot of the good floral smells and flavors with it, and it's working out very well.
Very cool. I'm just so tickled that that you guys are now. Are you the first meadery in Iowa?
We are. I think we're the first full meadery.
Okay.
And so there are some other wineries across the state that produce 1 or 2 meads, and then there's one other that does primarily mead, but they still have their name, their farm and winery. But a lot of their line is mead, and we actually just kind of came across them fairly recently, and so we haven't even had a chance to go visit them, but we've had a couple of chats back and forth on Facebook just to kind of introduce, semi anyway, and say, hey, you're out there, we're here too. So, that's exciting because it's just totally new for so many people that, don't even know what you're talking about. First, it's like you say meat, and it's like, no, I'm not a butcher. It's meat, and so you got to get past that stuff. And it's like, well, what kind of grapes do you use, and all those kinds of questions. That I think many meaderies have experienced, and so that's part of that initial education. But I think so far the responses that we've gotten from it have all been really positive, and people are interested. It's kind of fun when you give somebody who's like, well, I don't like wine, well, just try it, it's not wine, it's different, and then they're like, whoa, that's really good. So that's exciting to see that, and to kind of introduce that new thing to folks, especially ones that are maybe a little more adventurous in their drinking styles, and say, yeah, I'm willing to give anything a go. And so we're excited about that, and so far our response has been really positive. So we're hoping that's a good sign for us moving forward.
How have you been getting the word out there as you come up on your quote unquote public opening? I know you guys are licensed to sell, but
yeah, we have we've almost fully relied on Facebook, and like it or hate it, it's really done very well for us in getting the word spread. Yeah, we did have initial kind of a local article that ran in a paper in our area, and so that got us some attention. And then we have been at a couple different events. One of them was an art festival in a nearby community where I work daytime, and so that helped a lot. And so that got us a lot of outreach to folks that hadn't heard of us yet. And so, of course, we gathered their emails and things. And but we probably saw at least 300 people come through and taste from us that day. And so, a lot of people were excited about that. And that was a really good launch for us to hit that event. And so we're hoping that we're going to carry that through and keep some of that excitement. But most of it's all been kind of that social media piece is what we've been sticking to. You know, it's free, and it's hard to beat that.
Well, and you know, you get people that do like you, and they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends, and so it's a snowball effect, and it's very
Absolutely.
it's one of the big things when I'm working with my clients is help them put that together so that they can get, you know, the most bang for their time, because it's not a buck at that point, you know, but time is money, especially in a
time is
meter.
money.
Yeah.
Time is money. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, if I'm working, you know, my normal day, and then usually if you come home and you know, or doing some stuff down in the, you know, production area, and then I'm hopping on the computer and trying to get some stuff done, and you know, so it's definitely a full-time gig plus, and for both of us to kind of keep things going. You know, you do what you got to do, and we're excited to kind of be open and actually start. You know, if so many people have been following us for 2 years, and you know, when can we get some?
Well, you're getting
finally.
You're even getting some airplay on the post we did tonight for the show. They're like, people are going, hey, they're on the radio. So you know, it's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. So now, I heard you say earlier the basement, and then just now go down. So are you guys operating out of your home then?
We do. Yeah,
cool.
we
So
do.
The state lets you do that.
That is awesome.
It's really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had to, you know, like I said, we happened to kind of come across this house that is just a monster of a house, really, and it has a lot of cool history with it and things for the region, and it just worked out perfectly because, you know, in Iowa you've got, you know, your extreme temperatures, and we all know the temperature control is, you know, so important for, you know, the business and stuff. And so you were able to operate with all of our tanks in the basement. We have a separate walk-in access point to get to that area, which of course the feds want to see. And we have area to separate out our bottles once they're done. And so we're just really fortunate to have that space. And then we're converting our kind of front sunroom and what was part of our living room area into our tasting room. And so, so, you know, we're going to capitalize on that. You know, people love, in Iowa anyway, to do kind of that off-beaten path trail to go visit the winery. You know, they don't mind going on the gravel road. They don't mind, you know, traveling 30, 40 minutes to go have that experience. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to capture some of that excitement in coming to our tasting room, and hopefully we'll do most of our sales that way.
Well, you've got you know, a sort of like a mead B&B.
Yeah.
Whatever the acronym for that would be, I don't know, because there's no bed, no breakfast. But you know,
right.
Yeah, it's part of your home, and I get that. I'm a country girl myself, and for me, one of the most fun things is to find one of those little off the beaten path, hidden away that, you know, places that it's so fun.
Yeah. Well, and it is. It's, you know, it's a beautiful site. We couldn't have, you know, just happened. Thank goodness for Zillow, because that's where we found it. But you know, it's like, you know, we just kind of happened across this, and it's just gorgeous. And everybody who comes to visit us is just usually mouth open, like, "Wow, this space is just awesome." I mean, it's just, it's really beyond words sometimes how just peaceful, quiet. You know, the birds are crazy, and it's just a nice, relaxing space. We're like, if we could, you know, if people could come here and just unplug for, you know, a weekend, we could probably make all kinds of money.
Well, and there's no reason why you can't market it as exactly that. You know, just you know, take a break from you know, from the big city lights and come on out here where the air is clean and fresh and time slows down and you can kick back, relax, and
the maid fries freely.
Exactly.
You're giving me ideas now too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
She lives off. She's kind of out of town too, so.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I don't blame you. I'm the same way. We moved out to the boonies, and now, unfortunately, the boonies aren't as boony as they were.
Yeah.
They're a subdivision behind us where a cattle farm used to be. I like the cows.
Yeah.
But
urban encroachment.
I know, right?
It's us all.
Yeah, we're already going. Yep, time to move further away from civilization. So yeah.
Yeah. You just got to buy more land.
Yeah, unfortunately, here that's not